Welcome to episode 317 of In Touch with iOS, the show that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies. I'm your host, Dave Ginsburg, and I've got a guest here this week. Mr. Guy Serle's back. How you doing, Guy?
Hey, floating. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Dave.
Oh, great to always have you. And also great to have him in a different location. Marty Jencius is here. How you doing, Marty?
Yeah, I hope I can stay the whole time, and it's not because I don't want to be here. It's just I'm wondering how well this little device that's repeating the internet at a higher rate for me and a higher cost will last. How long it'll last, and so it's good to be here. My relatives are like probably playing Pictionary or something right now.
So you'll be here the whole time then.
Yeah, I will be here the whole time.
Better to be here for that than that. Also great to be
CIA safe house.
And also glad he's back. Ben Roethig, how you doing, Ben?
I am fantastic, Dave. Ready to talk a little bit of Apple Intelligence.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about this week, but last but certainly not least, Jeff Gamet is here. How you doing, Jeff? Glad you're here.
I'm doing all right, and I'm feeling better than I was last week.
That is a good thing. We are very glad about that. So, like I said,
glad about that.
Yes, thank you for being here. And like we said, there's a lot to talk about this week. We're going to actually, as we record this, the quarter three earnings for Apple was just announced, so not even 2 hours ago here. And we're going to talk about that and lots of updates, including iOS 17.6 and a number of betas. We'll hit that in a bit. And I had decided also, since Marty is the Vision Pro expert, we're going to have a Vision Pro this week's segment each week. Got some topics for that and plenty of news as well. So let's go on with the topics. And the topic of the day and the week here is Apple's results. The quarterly record all-time high. It was an all-time high in services. They announced that for this third quarter of 2024, $85.8 billion. It's a record for the fiscal third quarter, which is traditionally the company's quiet quarter. Services revenue reached an all-time revenue high of $24.2 billion. So as far as the percentages goes, iPhone was down about 1%. iPad was spiked up to 24%. I wonder why. As well as major new product releases, of course, and the Mac revenue ticked up about 2%. You look at the total revenue here comparative to the last third quarter. Yeah, it's way up, and we thank Jason Snell and his team at Six Colors using his great amazing charts that he has here. Those are in the show notes here. But you really look closely to the quarterly revenue by category. iPhone it dipped down to 46%. It was about 50%, and it pretty much was consistent of all of Apple's business. Well, services is now at a 28% number here. That's just incredible when it comes to that. So we start with that services. Why is the services increasing? Well, I mean, I think it's obvious because Apple TV Plus really is a driver of a lot of that. Ben, we were talking about pre-show. What do you think about this with the services?
I think this is pretty much inevitable. Well, number one, devices right now are so good that things that were not too long ago a 2 or 3 year cycle are now significantly longer. Not only that, but Apple, we are increasingly reliant on these services. Apple TV Plus, the cloud storage. My brain is not working. Yeah, iCloud. My brain is not working tonight. Yep. And the others, Apple Music, are increasingly important in someone's repertoire. And honestly, we're seeing more and more people moving to Apple.
Seems to be the case. Apple CFO Luca Maestrini also said that he's seeing continued growth in level of engagement that customers have with its ecosystem. He also said that Apple doing a very good job improving the quality of its services, improving the amount of content available, and Apple plans to continue to add new Apple TV Plus and Apple Arcade content. Really, is Apple Arcade really a big driver of Apple services? You kind of have to wonder.
Not if you've read certain articles this week.
Yes, which we may touch on. What's your thoughts, Guy, on this with the services?
Well, services has been going up every quarter.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single quarter since the release of, Apple Plus Plus, where, they include everything, that services hasn't increased. So it's not a huge surprise. I mean, it's outstripped the Mac. It's starting to get into iPhone territory. And, these things kind of feed on one another. People see how good the phones are. They see how good iPads are. For some people see how good iPads are. They see how good the Mac is and the Mac OS, and it just feeds into all of the services. And then the services kind of feed back into itself. So it's like a snake eating itself. But except instead of getting smaller, it keeps getting bigger. So I don't really know where that analogy goes.
It's an Ouroboros snake.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird growing snake. But I mean, odd analogies aside, this is just the continuation of Apple's dominance, not just in hardware, but in software as well, which if you'd said something about that 20 years ago, people would have laughed in your face. And now here we are. The iPhone has, the iPod and then the iPhone has fed into Apple's resurgence, and it hasn't stopped since 2001. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So unless the EU can somehow manage to outlaw Apple making money, I can't see where it's going to end. Apple would have to have like one hell of a stumbling block in order to stop this train.
Yep. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah. Apple just, there's so much momentum there. Of course, the numbers just keep going up. When I was looking at Jason's charts, one thing that I thought was interesting is that when you look at the percentages, iPhone is down. When you look at how much revenue iPhone's bringing in, it's pretty much the same year over year.
Right.
And so really what's making iPhone sales look like they're down is the fact that service sales are up. And so Apple's just making more money, and a larger percentage compared to the previous year is going into services. And so this is a problem that I see with when people read numbers, not just for Apple, but for a lot of companies that have multiple revenue sectors, where if overall revenue grows and one part of it is staying at a solid level, people interpret that as, oh, sales are down in that area. That's bad. No, they're not down. People are buying iPhones. People are buying a lot more with services right now than they used to. So, yeah, that inverted, self-growing, edible snake that guy has, it's not going to get any smaller. Not for a while.
Yeah. Marty, how about you?
Well, once again, as everybody predicted, Apple fails another quarter.
You're doomed.
Making all the money.
They keep making the money despite all the predictions. I'm trying to figure out what's the driver in this. And one of the things I would consider is the privacy and the security aspects have become more important in the public's eye, particularly with some of the problems that we've had with privacy and security, that they're beginning to see Apple as a secure platform. So, and really the most secure platform. And so I think what's happening is we're getting people driven to Apple for that type of security. And besides the products, I mean, they're enjoying the products, but I think the services, iCloud and things like that is being driven by Apple's emphasis on security and privacy.
Yeah. So definitely interesting. I'm not going to go over every single thing here. And like I said, we mentioned iPad sales 24%. It's up to from 7.2 billion. That's obviously because of all the new iPads that came out. Took some of my money and Marty's as well here. So that's no surprise there. And then the big discussion now is how the iPhone did. Tim Cook did say that the company's very excited about Apple Intelligence and the level of value that Apple will provide to their users. And it's going to be another reason for a compelling upgrade, since, kind of hinting about iPhone 16 that's probably going to be coming out. Again, I mentioned Apple Intelligence. They can't see what kind of amazing things that developers are going to be doing with Apple Intelligence. And I also know that they're going to be putting a lot more money into this and push hard to try to get this released in the fall and stay on track, because that's the goal here. We'll talk about beta in just a minute here as far as people being able to do Apple Intelligence. Other product revenue, the Mac was up slightly, 7.7 billion, and the home accessories and wearables was actually fell 2%, 8.1 billion. So overall, I think pretty good performance for the most part. You know, you never can expect this kind of a profit here when it comes to the third quarter, because third quarter tends to be lower. Then now we're going to be going into the fourth quarter here soon, and then now those numbers are probably be more with.
It's hard to argue with success.
Yeah, you really can't. So, anybody else want to add any final words on that before we move on? There's not much else we can go on this, and plenty of other things to talk about. So let's go ahead and talk about. I'm going to go into beta, but first I want to talk a little bit about new updates. Apple did release iOS 17.6 as well as iPad OS 17.6, and you definitely want to go out and install 17.6 right away, because there's about 30 different vulnerabilities that are out there in security for this, and people get concerned why you got to keep installing these. Well, then this is the why. There's a number of different vulnerabilities in security. It does talk about it. I've got links in the show notes as far as what the specifics are in vulnerability. It's just go out, install it. And most of you are smart enough not to be running beta, I hope.
Unlike me.
So yeah, unlike Ben and unlike Marty probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, please go check that out. A couple other things notable that what was added, the Apple continues to expand the emergency SOS via satellite expansion. If you recall, that's available for the iPhone 14 and later, where you can contact emergency services if there's no Wi-Fi or cellular signal. Next, the most recent country that was opened up for this was in Japan. That's a pretty big country. That's great to see that they're adding that. So that continues on to be something that Apple's really getting strong with this. So it's a good thing to see here. I'll talk a little more about updates here as well. Vision OS is now at 1.3. Mac OS is at 14.6. TV OS and Watch OS is at 17.6, and Watch OS is at 10.6. That's basically going to be the latest updates. They did add the catch-up feature. You can catch up on sports specifically on TV OS. A couple notable things as far as Mac goes. The M3 MacBook Pro now is going to be able to drive multiple displays. It didn't before. Now it does with Sonoma 14 and in clamshell mode. Yep. So that's a good thing to see as well. So a lot of updates there this week when it comes to that. So now let's move on to beta. Now, beta, iOS 18.1, beta 1 was released, and it added the Apple Intelligence feature. Now, of course, everybody knows that you have to have an iPhone 15 Pro or higher to be able to utilize this feature on the iPhone.
Wait, is there a higher phone than the 15 Pro right now?
There is not. So you have to have the latest iPhone.
I thought I'd bring that up.
Oh, I know.
Don't spend much time in Colorado, do you, Guy? All iPhones are.
That's right. It's so basically they released the first betas of 18.1 on iPad, iOS, and Mac OS Sequoia is now at 15.1. These new betas will be tested alongside the iOS 18 and iPad OS 18 and Mac Sequoia 15's beta. So developers can choose to opt in which new betas they want to do, if they want to work with Apple Intelligence or stay on the standard iOS 18 beta track. So you have two choices. This is rather unique. I don't recall Apple ever doing this in the beta world here, having simultaneous different tests going on. But the thing is, majority of the devices that are out there, of course, are not going to be able to utilize this iOS 18.1. So if you do recall, like I said, we talked about all the devices that will be supported at launch. Like I said, all of the iPhones would be 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. And then they're saying the full iPhone 16 lineup is expected to also support AI as well. A number of Macs, mostly in the M series, pretty much all of them. The same thing with the iPads. All the M series iPads are going to, Apple Intelligence will be supported. So it's a pretty strong thing. It's just, I think we're probably like you guys are joking about the iPhone, that the 15 is the only one. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's a slower processor as you go lower, even on the 14. So it's interesting. What do you think, Ben, on AI here? Where Apple's going with this on beta? And you've got it installed, so you probably can tell us how it's been.
Yes. First, for the most part, beta 18 point or iOS 18.1 beta 1 seems for the most part to be basically beta 4, but with limited Apple intelligence. So you're not gonna
Wow, he's gone.
Oh, I'm here. I have cats all.
Listen, I grew up in the 70s. You can't do that to me.
But anyway,
so many Stro titles now.
Now that I've been completely distracted by my feline
Apple Intelligence,
paper.
Apple Intelligence.
Yeah. What are you going to be getting with Apple Intelligence? Number one, it does have the new Apple Intelligence look, which having the border of the screen be all sorts of colorful instead of a nice little ball right in the middle of your screen is rather nice. Apple Writing Tools works. There seems to be a little bit more contextualization with Siri. That said, if you are hoping Siri 2.0 is here, it's not. It is the same old Siri that you will tell it to do one thing and it'll do something completely else.
Yep. Have you had a chance to try it at all, Marty?
Not really, but I use so many other writing tools that I can't tell if this is coming from Apple or if it's coming from other writing tools I have embedded. And so I just opened up my iPad, which I had running, and just to see if something would happen different as I played with it. And I just haven't spent enough time with it to find the tools. There are times that I'm working on my phone and I'm getting more corrective writing or more options. And as I said, I can't tell if it's a tool that I have in there or if this is some of the new beta stuff coming through. But it's not the new Siri yet. So, as Ben had said.
Yep. You have any thoughts on this, Jeff? I know you and I are neither one are going to be able to try this right now, but
I really want to be excited about this, but with the way Siri has been managed over its life since Apple purchased the product, Apple's really going to have to prove to me that what they're doing with AI is solid. And right now, I'm just not feeling it. And not because I have played with the AI features in the beta, but because Apple has set me up to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know that they say, fool me once, fool me twice. We're about fool me 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So we'll go notably what things will not be is not in the beta just yet is the Image Playground. That's both the standalone app and the functionality built into apps like Notes and Messages. It's not there. Gmoji, I need the Image Wand, priority notifications at the top of the stack, the mail categories. All these are all things that were announced at WWDC. The photos, well, the memory maker feature is active. The cleanup tool that removes unwanted objects with a tap is not just yet. And like Jeff said, Siri functionality like on-screen awareness, personal context, and the ability to take more actions in and across apps not yet available. And the ChatGPT integration has not been implemented. And additional language is right now it's just US English, and additional platforms aren't on there as well. So this like anything with beta, this is just the beginning. Go ahead, Marty.
I find these articles a little bit frustrating because it's like Apple Intelligence is here.
Oh, I know.
Now, let me tell you
that's
all
why,
the stuff you're not going to get.
That's why I put this in here. There's two articles. What's there and what's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's beta. Hey, we got to start testing it, and then that's where it's going to go here. So Couple other notable things here on the Mac side of things. The Apple Intelligence may not work when Mac OS 15.1 beta is running on an external drive. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, some people want to do that so they can do a dual boot. They can boot, from an external drive as opposed to installing it on their core machine. So that's kind of disappointing because somebody wants to do it that way. So it is what it is. And Safari does get Apple Intelligence upgrade in 18.1 with a new summarize feature, and also it summarizes in an improved reader mode, summarizing the articles, and it'll scan the contents of the page, and then it'll show it like Ben mentioned, the purple Apple Intelligence glow. So you are able to do that. Did you try that in the Safari, Ben?
I have not yet because I didn't know that was a feature, but I'm going to now.
Yeah. And also Apple is providing detailed privacy reports on user requests. So they did begin a preview with being able to, what the company's calling a new AI-based features. For instance, users can now ask the system to rephrase a text and summarize messages or emails. But this feature works both on device and online language models. However, to ensure users' privacy, Apple's created a PCC, which is the private compute module within its own chips to process requests online with end-to-end encryption. So not even the company has access to this data. So once the processing is complete, all the data is permanently wiped. So that's good to know. As we know, Apple very strong with privacy when it comes to that. So very, very cool thing here. One other thing I'll mention, the feature that they talked about, the ability to be able to do call recording and transcribing of a phone call. Apple 18.1 does now have that on the developer beta. So it does allow you to do that. So when you start recording the button, it's going to make sure everyone on the call is notified that the call is being recorded through an audible message. And there is no confirmation dialogue. So if a person wanted to be recorded, they would have to hang up. And so once the call is in progress, the audio is recorded and saved in the Notes app. Recorded phone calls can then be opened from Notes, and then you can re-listen to the call. This is pretty amazing. Been waiting for something like this. Wouldn't have too many reasons to record, since most of the time you're on the phone. But this is a good feature. Did you know about that one, Ben?
I did. It's up in the left-hand corner, and I have to say, Marty might be using that right now from a CIA safe house.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is a feature, because if there are people on the call that I don't want, all I have to do is tell them, well, I'm going to start recording it. The only way you can do to get out of it is to drop off the call. So
right. Yeah. So good to see some features in here. So, and then, like I said, in parallel, we're at iOS 18 beta 4 still running. Not much else to say about that. We've been talking about that quite a bit here. And the public beta is at beta 2 on the public side. Other couple things I wanted to mention here. There are some new features in the AirPods with this update, including we talked about this before, the head gestures where you can shake your head left or right to decline a call or without using a voice command or your hands. So there is a solution with that. The voice isolation, where you can cut down loud background sounds when you're on a phone call, allowing the person that you're speaking to if you can hear them more clearly. And better adaptive audio controls to adjust audio active noise cancellation. And the sound you hear is in response of ambient noise in your environment. And then personalized spatial audio for gaming, voice quality in games. There's a number of others. And this is pretty much going to be on most of these features are going to be the AirPods Pro 2 with the personalized spatial audio. So something to look forward to with AirPods. Anyone want to make a comment on that at all?
Sounds like a good upgrade. I wish they would come to a piece of Apple hardware that was not the AirPods Pro 2.
Yeah, like Beats. I know you're a big Beats fan.
Yeah.
Well, was anybody kind of surprised that Apple Intelligence came out at all at this point in the beta cycle?
Very surprised, because this is not normal. I've never seen them do in parallel. In previous years, you got 18.1, 18. So you got two simultaneous developer betas going on right now.
Well, because they were saying when all this was being talked about at WWDC that these were, Apple Intelligence wasn't going to be out until later on. after, the other OS updates came out.
Mhm.
And when I saw a couple days ago, it says, oh, well, we got the first beta for Apple Intelligence. It's like, damn it. I just did a podcast saying that we're going to have to wait. So, once again, Apple screws the little guy and I sound like an idiot for other reasons than what's obvious, but it really, really did surprise me. I have, other than an M1 iPad and my Mac Mini, I don't think I have anything else that could run it, but I'm not going to run betas at this point regardless. But the fact that they've got it out so quickly kind of tells me that they're forging all these agreements with other companies to get Apple Intelligence moving. I still kind of maintain that they've got something else cooking in the background that's totally Apple, and that this is a stopgap measure until they can get out their own large language, artificial intelligence, whatever you want to call it, that is going to be Apple branded as compared to partnering up with all these other companies. I think this was more or less, I think this was kind of a panic move on Apple's part, that they felt they had to get something out there that had AI in it, and this was their response.
And to show how early this is compared to normal betas, the earliest build you will see released as a dev build, Scotty, please, is a G build. This is a P, as in Papa, build.
Yep. I swear it scares me every time you disappear.
It's been those people listening. Ben's cat is going in the screen and he disappears.
Yeah.
And not just like, we can't see Ben because the cat's there.
Yeah.
Goes in front of the screen and disappears and takes Ben with it.
And a little piece piece of me dies.
I'm freaking out.
Yes. And she is also trying to write in the chat.
You remember
Nice.
that episode of the original Star Trek series, The Tholian Web? That's kind of where Ben is right now.
Yes.
Phasing in and out of existence.
Right.
This is my cat.
And if we don't get to the right point at the right time to do the right energy discharge, Ben will be lost into the mirror universe.
Yes.
Well, at least he can breathe wherever it is he is.
Yeah, at least there's that.
There is air.
Scott,
Where
I
do you
feel
guys find place in your head for this kind of stuff?
I don't remember my
It's
mattress.
all I have up there. Don't take it away from me. Hijack the show. That's what we've done.
good.
Oh, my.
Kitty.
All right.
Jody,
So
come
let's go ahead and move on here, and let's go on to Vision Pro for this week. As I mentioned, Apple did release Vision OS 1.3. I know, Ben, Marty, you're running 2.0, so there's probably not much you can add to this. But have you heard anything from others who are running 1.3?
No, I know there are developers that are like still working on things from a 1.3 standpoint. They're trying to clean up what they have in terms of their apps. And so this is, I think, going to be it for one. And so I think they're glad to see that it's come to the point that this is, I think they called it sort of a master, or I forget the term that they used with it when I saw it in other articles. But I think it's the torch will be passed to 2.0.
Yeah, which just all the rest of the betas that are out.
I also heard that they're not going to be doing betas for the general public on 2.0, that you have to be a developer to grab the betas. So this will be what the public will work with until 2.0 comes out.
Yeah, makes sense. Especially something as new as this device. Couple other stories I found relates to Vision Pro. Apple's Vision Pro can now be controlled with brain-computer interface. It can be controlled with only thoughts, thanks to an integration with neurotechnology startup Synchron's brain-computer interface (BCI). The company announced that Apple Vision Pros has successfully used by a patient through a direct brain control facilitated by their brain-computer interface technologies. It was a 64-year-old man who's suffering from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis (ALS) and demonstrated this integration. With this technology, Mark controlled this cursor on the Vision Pro to play solitaire and watch Apple TV and send text messages without using his hands, which he can no longer move due to his condition. Vision Pro's reliance on hand gestures would otherwise pose a barrier for users like Mark, who lost his upper limb functionality. This is pretty impressive. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this yet, Marty, as far as this is something of a future for the Vision Pro.
Yeah, I mean, it's an alternative use. I think of this, when I read this article, I thought of Stephen Hawking's and the devices he used in order to kind of do the work that he did. And, I don't necessarily think this was Apple's goal, but it's been repurposed for a community that it can really benefit from it. And as the eye-sight coordination gets a lot better with the device that it has with different betas, I think it's going to be kind of a remarkable experience. Now, this person has a neurodegenerative disorder, but it also, I think, has big impact with the right program for people who have various vision issues going on with them. And so I think it's exciting. It's kind of being repurposed as a tool for folks that need types of accommodations.
Yep.
Hey, Marty, I think that you nailed a lot of this, but I have a feeling that you might be off on one of your points, which is that you don't think Apple was anticipating this. I think this is part of what Apple was thinking about from the very beginning.
Okay.
I think they were considering Apple Vision Pro as a totally new platform. Of course, we knew that part, but not just for people that are fully motor capable. I think they really were looking at this as the beginning of a way to allow full computing experiences for people that have neurological and other motor control issues.
Well, even with the hand control issues, there articles have been popping up about how when Vision Pro scans your hands, it scans 21 different points on your hands. Mm-hmm. So it's looking at different joints, essentially, front and back. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, it's gathering a lot of data that could be useful. Now, if I imagine, and I have some friends who have not necessarily motor control issues, but their hands are kind of stuck.
Arthritis and such.
Yeah. And the article, there's another article that talked about how Apple has just patented the ability for people to use and create their own gestures. Mm-hmm. So if my hands are fully functional and fully mobile and the device is only set up to do that, then it's not going to help those folks who don't have those kind of digit kind of issues. But if those folks can make their own hand gestures based on the shape of their hands or the directions of their hands, then it opens it up to a lot more too. So you're probably on target. I know you're always on target, Jeff.
You are far too generous.
I actually used the Vision Pro for the very first time when we were all at Macstock.
Oh, right.
And I have to say, even with only having one eye, I was blown away at how well it looked and how good it looked, even from my perspective. One of the things that I've been hoping for, or at least trying to find out more information on, is something for people with monocular vision. Mm-hmm. And this goes a long way with the proper programming. And of course, it's just too flippin' big right now. But with the proper programming, people with various sight issues, including monocular vision, would be able to use this to make up for the deficiencies that they have. Like, I can see nothing on this side, but if I'm wearing a pair of glasses that has a camera there, and both sides of those cameras are being projected upon the left side of the glass, then all of a sudden everything that I couldn't see over here is now there. Mm-hmm. And that would be amazing. I would love to see that. And, and there's nothing like that right now. The problem being, granted, it is somewhat of a limited market. It's not like, okay, everybody with one eye, raise your hand and we're going to get your glasses. That's going to cost $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So, but it's something that as time goes on and developers get their hands on this type of technology, that the future looks really, really bright for people that have vision problems and have problems with their arms, have problems with their legs, that, computing was more or less, no way for them to be involved in the same kind of way that the five of us are. So I'm looking forward to the future and seeing not just what Apple does with this, but what third-party developers do with it.
Yeah. So that's great. So that's some of the things we found this week on Vision Pro. And let's go on and move on to the news for this week. There are a number of news stories. Google Maps and Waze have been updated with new iPhone and CarPlay features. Google has announced that both Waze and Google Maps rolling out for the iPhone and CarPlay that aims to keep them safer and more informed on the go. First up, changes to Maps aims to make it easier to report incidents and helpful information like nearby construction and lane closures, objects, and police presence. The reports come from the Maps and Waze communities, and users will now see which app the report came from. There are larger reporting icons that are designed to be easier to tap quickly to sharing updates, and other drivers can also confirm the incident with a quick tap. Meanwhile, Google Maps has gained a new destination guidance to make it less confusing when users don't know where to enter or park when they arrive somewhere, especially when it's nighttime. When driving into a place, Maps' new destination guidance will automatically light up your building and its entrance as you approach it. In addition, it shows you other nearby parking lots. So I can go on here to talk some of the things that Waze is doing as well. But I think this is great to see that Google is really enhancing it for CarPlay, and that's the biggest thing, for us who have a CarPlay in our cars. That it's important. What do you think, Guy?
I saw an article, and I cannot remember where I saw it, where they were talking about the future of CarPlay, and one of the things they were talking about was cars that didn't have side view mirrors, that there were basically just cameras there, and that those cameras are projected forward on your windshield at such a level that it's not going to obstruct everything else that you're seeing. And I was kind of like, yeah, that would be fantastic. I would love to see that. The question is any car manufacturer willing to take a chance on it? And if it was just in CarPlay, it would never get off the ground. Nobody would take a chance on it. It's got to be universal across at least the two big car infotainment platforms, not even counting whatever stupid crap GM is planning to do in the future.
Right. Yep.
That's based on Android Auto.
Yeah. Well, based on and we'll see what they actually do with it. But it even if it's based on Android Auto, it's like you're trying to reinvent the wheel. Why? Just so that you can get more data? I don't understand GM's thinking on that. But regardless, there are so many antiquated bits and pieces of cars that can just go away when people put their minds to it. And, it's like rearview mirrors. Who needs rearview mirrors? Who needs side mirrors? Who needs this? Who needs that? We can just project all this on a virtual panel on your windshield. Who needs to have everything that you see in your dashboard down below that you have to look through your steering wheel in order to see it or integrate with it? This can all be done. And getting back to the Vision Pro, moving stuff around and doing stuff with hand gestures instead of, physically having to hit buttons and all the rest of it. CarPlay and Android Auto really, really excite me. And I'm super looking forward to everything that's coming up with it. Not just Maps and Waze and all the rest of that, just everything that is capable from within these platforms.
Yep. How about you, Jeff?
Soapbox.
I like Guy's vision on this. And
Enthusiasm.
there's no sarcasm in that, seriously. But I realize now that you bring that up, I get why you would think that, and that's fair. And what I see happening with Guy's CarPlay and Android Auto future, where more and more of the driving experience is being integrated in, is not an either or, but both to be used in the way you want. And by that I mean, like Guy said, who needs a rear view mirror? Who needs side view mirrors? Well, according to the United States government, everyone. And so features like that I don't see going away, because it's easier to just leave them, but then add in the other things. So they could add the cameras in to go along with the side view mirrors, give you that heads up information display, and you can have that whole experience. And with the way cars are being designed, it feels like we're going farther and farther down a path of limited visibility through traditional means. Meaning, that's a fancy way of saying, I can look out the window and see all the stuff outside my car. Sight lines in modern cars, they're getting worse and worse all the time. You need a camera just to be able to back up, and not because you don't know how to back up, but because you can't see out the back of your car even with a window now.
And let's be honest, the cameras are safer than trying to do this.
So yeah, giving us the best of all the worlds, I am for that. And if it makes driving a safer experience all the way around, so much the better. Because
just don't
there
drive
are a lot of
for us.
really bad drivers out there.
Oh, there is, for sure. Marty, go ahead.
My wife is on vacation, and I'm driving her around the country. So while she's on vacation, I've got a new day job, which is driving her around the country. And, you're talking about these changes with Google Maps in particular. I decided I was going to, I tried Google Maps a long time ago when I was with CarPlay, when I had a Pixel phone and I was playing with it. And I was pretty impressed with it then. But this time I'm not letting the S lady drive me around, or Apple Maps drive me around the United States. I'm using Google and finding it a pretty interesting interface. And the things that you describe in terms of acknowledging accidents, data input, the kinds of things that you see in Waze, you're beginning to see in Google. And definitely the destination thing is a whole much simpler input and process with this new version of Google Maps and CarPlay. So it's been fun. And when I get other relatives in the car, they're fascinated by it too. So,
yep. Ben, you got any last minute comments before we move on here?
Yep, these are definitely great additions to Google Maps and its sister product Waze. But I think you're really going to see these two programs unlocked this fall when they get full Siri 2.0 integration.
Yep.
All right, I'm jumping in because we've already hijacked this show from you. What I would like to see is Google Maps and Apple Maps both improve to the point where I don't need to have both. And where we are right now, when I went to find a place, and I've had this discussion with a lot of friends, and so I know I'm not the only person that does this. You need to find the place, you put it into Google Maps. You need to get to the place, take what you found in Google Maps and put it into Apple Maps. And then you get the best of both worlds. And it would be great to not have to use that sort of process to get where you want to go. But yeah, that's kind of where we are right now.
Yep. Speaking of CarPlay, Apple CarPlay contributes to a higher vehicle satisfaction in the latest survey. A new survey released by J.D. Power, which is a pretty big survey company, shows that U.S. consumers continue to prefer vehicles with support for CarPlay. The market research firm Annual U.S. Automotive Performance, Execution, and Layout study found overall satisfaction with in-vehicle infotainment systems to an average of 805 on a 1,000 points scale. However, satisfaction was high among owners who use Android Auto, which is 832, and even higher for those who use CarPlay, 840. This study is based on a response from about 99,000 owners of new 2024 model year vehicles in the U.S. that were surveyed over the 90 days of ownership. And it was conducted from July 2023 through May of 2024. CarPlay has routinely fared well in vehicle satisfaction studies since launching in 2014. So the latest one is no surprise. However, it comes after GM, of course, controversially decided to stop offering CarPlay and Android Auto in its new electric vehicles in favor of its own software system. Electric vehicle maker Rivian is also preferring its own software over CarPlay as well. And the study reinforces that these automakers are betting against a consumer preference, and it remains to see if they'll ever reverse course. We know that the next generation of CarPlay that Apple announced in 2022 is yet to become available in any vehicles, but Apple's website says the rollout is going to be beginning this year in 2024. Next generation CarPlay will be more deeply integrated across multiple screens in a vehicle, offering a built-in FM radio app and climate controls and more. Highly customizable, allowing automakers to tailor the design of the system uniquely to match their vehicles. Are we all surprised about this? We're all talking about here. We love CarPlay. You know, Guy, you say that you won't want to run a car without CarPlay. So, but
No.
Unfortunately, you did when you went to Macstock. But
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
And we heard about it.
Yeah, we heard about
many times. It was a subject of conversation. The fact that car makers want to somewhat customize CarPlay as far as environmental controls and other types of controls beyond the infotainment system that you have in most cars is not a surprise. And as long as they leave the infotainment part alone, which of course is the kickback to where Apple makes most of its money through services, I don't feel that they're going to fuss that much. If they want to put another screen a little bit lower down and use the power of whatever processor is coming up in the iPhone 17 or 18, yeah, why not? You know, you want to have environmental controls that you can customize exactly for where you expect them to be. You want to have your speedometer and your tachometer and other types of engine monitoring systems that a lot of people like, you know, and you put them wherever you want them, then great. So if the car maker can customize it and the customers can customize it, then I don't really see a problem with it. The only part when it becomes a problem is when car makers kind of try to dictate not just to their customers, but to Apple and Google on where the platform should go into the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. What about you, Marty?
I would rely more and more on CarPlay if I had the opportunity to rely on it. For me, it really is when I'm on these kind of long driving trips. I know Guy does a lot more driving on a daily basis than I do, or I'd assume he does. So it doesn't come into play for me only if I am taking the advantage of trips. And when I do long trips, it's often to places I've already been to, so I can probably go without it if I needed to go without it.
Yep. How about you, Jeff?
First, I am not surprised at all that consumers have higher satisfaction with their cars when CarPlay is an option. This is no surprise. GM, Rivian, Tesla, take note. You are screwing your customers, and eventually it's going to hurt you on some level.
It already is for Tesla.
It is.
So, yeah, just give people what they need. The fact that we don't have CarPlay 2 on any cars yet, of course we don't. And that's because the lead time for new car production designs, this is a multi-year thing. So when Apple announced the new CarPlay, they were in a position where they had to do it because it was going to be revealed by car companies through leaks, if nothing else, before Apple could control the message. So they did that. and then we have to wait 2, 3, 4 years before we see any of this actually showing up in production cars. So
Yep.
yeah, no surprise there at all.
Yeah,
And-
unlike iPhones, I only purchase cars like every 5 or 6 years. So, I recently got a car, so then you'd live with all the good stuff that comes out for about 5 or 6 years before you have an opportunity to upgrade.
Mhm.
Same here.
Well, that's
Yeah.
that's
And
the beauty of CarPlay. You can get a whole
Yeah.
new experience just with the next time you buy a phone.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
not dependent on, and this was the problem in the past for auto manufacturers. They would come up with some ridiculous way to get music or tapes or CDs or whatever, and then a ridiculous way to interface with your environmental systems and say, good enough. And what are they going to do? It's built in. Well, now it doesn't have to be built in. It can be part
Right.
of whatever Apple and the automobile manufacturers and the individuals who own iPhones and cars can decide for themselves. And, it's like freedom, baby. Yeah, let's go.
Guy,
Look.
when you say that, I mean, my car came with some Subaru-based OnStar system,
Yeah.
and I think I've had to use it once in the 3 years that I've had this car. So,
Sure.
I occasionally get emails. You haven't your contract on this is run out. Do I really need it now? Well, particularly with the device that I can carry in my pocket that does all the stuff that you want it to do. So,
Mhm.
Ben, you get the final word on this topic.
Yeah, I mean, we're at a point where if a car does not have CarPlay, it's off the list for me.
Yes.
And
Same.
yeah, I don't think this is going to kick back too much to Tesla and Rivian as much as it would other manufacturers, but
Yep.
GM is going to be feeling it real damn soon.
Unless they change
hope
their
so.
minds.
They won't. I'd be surprised. So let's see. Where are we at here? I lost my notes here.
Ohio?
Let me get back here. Yes, Ohio. Thank you. Quick stories here. iPhone driver's licenses are now available in Ohio. They're in Ohio. That should make you happy, Marty. You now can get your driver's license just like all the other states that have it now. This is the 5th state, which includes Arizona, Maryland, Colorado, and Georgia. And it's been like 2021 since Apple started this whole up, and states are way behind. So
yeah, I'm really surprised Ohio's on this list, considering what we've been subjecting the United States to recently. That comes as a shocker, because when I saw it happening in other states, I was like, it'll never happen here, not for a long time.
There you
So
go.
cool.
now you can do it.
Yep.
Much else we could say.
And you'd think that states would be more on board with this because essentially, if you get pulled over by the police, now you have to hand them your unlocked phone
No,
in order for
actually,
them
we
to see
don't
your
know
driver's
how it
license.
works. That's not how it works at all, actually.
Really? Tell me.
Okay,
Excite me.
Okay,
Jeff has
so
it.
your phone never leaves your hand. Your phone is never unlocked. They have to have a reader thing with them, which is basically like a little camera hanging on their chest or whatever. And then you hold up your phone and it reads a code off the screen.
Oh, okay.
And then all the data exchange happens on the police side, where that code then goes back to the state's computer system and says, all right, here's the data on this person. So there's no handing off of anything physical in the process at all.
Huh.
And we can
that would
trust Jeff
explain
with-
why other states haven't picked it up yet.
Well, I
Yeah.
think a lot of it has to do with states not wanting to spend the money to modernize their systems.
Which they're
like-
going to have to, especially with Real ID.
Yes, that's true. In Colorado, we were one of the first states that rolled this out. So I've had my digital ID for years. I was able to use it for the first time ever earlier this month when I went to the airport to go through TSA to get on my flight to go to Macstock. And it took years, even though all the technology was already in place at Denver International Airport, to accept digital ID, and TSA said they were accepting it. No, they just finally started a couple months ago. And
So do you still carry your physical license?
well, I have to, because the way it works is each municipality or county has to add support for scanning the digital ID codes. So in Colorado, that means Colorado State Patrol, they've been able to do the digital ID scan since the rollout happened. And then we have 5 cities in all of Colorado that can actually scan a digital ID. And if you go into places that are required to accept digital ID as valid identification, like if you go into a liquor store and you show your digital ID, even though they're required to accept that as a valid ID, they won't. Like, I don't know what that is. I need to see real ID. And you're told when you go through the process to add your ID to the whole digital wallet thing, it brings up a whole thing saying you need to keep carrying your physical ID. You can't stop doing that. So the promise of what this can be is not aligning with the reality of what is actually happening.
So you're not saying it's fully realized.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping Jeff had a more dramatic story.
You
Assuming
could have
he was
said
the
it
one
in
that
like
was
a
been pulled
Vincent
over.
Price voice.
Yeah, he's been
Yeah.
pulled over in a often by the police, probably, and that's why he knows all this.
I
Boy.
could tell you stories.
Quick change pants.
Yeah, my quick change pants. But Marty, the fact that I do get contacted by the police on a fairly consistent basis accounts for why I don't have tattoos. And that's a whole separate story.
All right.
And I'll share that sometime.
Let's go to the last 2 stories here.
Not
Oh,
expecting
my
the show
gosh.
to go there, were you?
Oh, no, I wasn't. So, last 2 stories here. Apple fixes iCloud private relay after an extended outage. The outage happened last week. It began in early morning it was on Thursday last weekend as we recorded in July, and it lasted until about 10:59 Eastern time Saturday. This issue disrupted web browsing, and for some users, it was over 48 hours, which is unusually a long period for an Apple service outage. The problem was confirmed by Apple through its system status webpage, where it noted that the service might have been slow or unavailable. If you don't know, the iCloud Private Relay is a feature available to iCloud Plus subscribers designed to enhance privacy by encrypting browsing data and routing it through 2 separate relay servers. One of these servers is operated by Apple, by the other one by a third party. Setup ensured that neither Apple or the internet service providers nor the websites can access users' true browsing information. The service dual relay mechanism helped maintain a high level of privacy, separating the user's IP address from the DNS queries, which further obscures the user's online activity. Users who had iCloud Private Relay disabled to mitigate the browsing issues can go ahead and re-enable it now, because that's what you had to do, pretty much disable it. But yeah, a little unusual for Apple to have something like this happen. So then finally, this last story here, Apple agrees to follow President Biden's AI safety guidelines. Apple has committed a set of voluntary AI safeguards established by the president's administration, joined by other tech giants in a move to ensure responsible AI development. This was on via Bloomberg here. Apple is now part of a group of influential technology companies agreeing to the Biden administration's voluntary safeguards of this. And the White House had announced this last year as part of an executive order to guide the development of AI systems. Although these guidelines are not legally binding, they signify a collective effort by the tech industry to self-regulate and mitigate any potential risks associated by AI technologies. And Apple's participation in the initiative coincides with its plans to introduce its own cohesive AI system and deep integration with OpenAI's ChatGPT. Well, it's not available yet, as we talked earlier, but Ben, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think it's great that that companies are signing on to this, especially Apple.
For sure. Guy, you're smiling. What do you think?
So many thoughts are running through my head.
You're still
Be
thinking
careful.
about the tattoos, aren't you?
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. The fact that they're relying on these companies to self-regulate and the history of companies that self-regulate is kind of going back and forth, ping-ponging back and forth, and it does not fill me with a great deal of confidence.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens.
We will see.
Yeah.
Marty, you being a ChatGPT subscriber, what do you think this is going to do for this?
I just, I don't know what the impact's going to be. I like the fact that this discussion has been elevated to sort of a national presidential, conversation that, we have people in higher office that are trying to engage and address in this. I know one of the AI groups that I'm writing standards for had looked heavily at what is coming out of the White House in terms of expectations for AI. And so part of that, putting that together, was looking to make sure what we were putting together at least had some consistency with what we thought might wind up being national policy. So,
yep. Jeff, the final word.
Of course, Apple has said, yeah, we're on board with this. And these other companies have said the same. They don't want to have any more federal regulations dictating how they're doing what they're doing than is absolutely necessary. So the best way to push that off to a future date, or hopefully never have it happen at all, is to voluntarily agree to these guidelines that have come out of the White House. And Guy, your lack of faith in these companies' ability to do the right thing is totally justified. So we'll see how long it takes for various companies that have signed on to fail to comply with these requests. And what I'm hoping is that when it all starts to fall apart at some point, it's not Apple that's leading the fall apart bit, because I would like to think that they would operate at a higher standard for our personal privacy. But we're talking about corporations, and they are not our friends. So we will see.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Yeah. I'm sure Apple will lead it. I'm also sure Apple will get blamed for it.
Yep.
If something goes sour.
We will see. All right, that is the show for this week. But before we go, I just want to make sure I make this announcement about MacStock. MacStock 8 did wrap up for 2024. We all had a blast being there. But you can purchase the digital pass and still see the great talks that had it, including myself and Jeff Gamet and Marty that's here, and so many others. But the content should be available in late. And as Mike Potter mentioned last week on the show, he's working hard to get all those recordings in place, and hopefully by the end of August, you'll have start seeing some of the content. But why not just go ahead and sign up for it right now? Just go to MacStockConferenceandExpo.com, and there's a link right there in the show notes that you can sign up for it. And you also can sign up and get discounts on previous year's events too. There's a lot of good content from previous years, so check that out, and go ahead and subscribe for the digital pass for this year. You're going to see some great content. So please support MacStock, and that will be great, as well as you'll get to enjoy some of the content. So with that, let's go ahead and wrap up for this week. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, questions, and suggestions to our email address, which is feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Mastodon, which is at intouchwithios at techhangout.social. Support the show by buying me a coffee at intouchwithios.com/coffee. We would really appreciate it. You can become a Patreon of the show by going to patreon.com/intouchwithios, where we have 2 tiers available to support the show. We would really appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you're notified when we are live streaming on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time and 5 p.m. Pacific on our YouTube channel. A shout out to Webb Bixby, made it late, but we're still glad you're here, and Brian F. and a number of others in the chat. Really appreciate you being here. And that's our YouTube channel, youtube.com/intouchwithios, where you can watch the current and past live streams as well as listen to past shows. Visit In Touch with iOS magazine on Flipboard, where many of the topics we discuss are flipped into that magazine. The link is in our show notes. You can subscribe to the show on your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Overcast, and many others. Just go to our website, intouchwithios.com, where all the links and all the ways to listen to us are on that website. I am Dave Ginsburg. You can find me on Mastodon at DaveG65 at Mastodon.cloud. Guy Serle, it's always a blast and pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. I had a really, really good time. You can find me over on the mymac.com podcast. We're coming up on our 700th show, which oddly enough is numbered 930 or 985.
Oh,
It's-
new math.
It's all new
The
math.
math.
I don't quite get it, but yeah. So Gaz and my 700th show. English is hard. Will be in just a couple of weeks, and we really, really look forward to everyone who has been with us all throughout this crazy journey that we've been doing. You can find me on most of the socials as either Mac Parrot or VertShark because I'm schizophrenic in that way too. And we have a Google Voice number that you can call, and you might get what we like to call a Woo T. Woo T. And that number that you can call us on is 703-828-4677. Call us collect, call us direct, but call us today. Yeah.
Thanks,
Empire.
Empire. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna mix it up here. Ben Roethig, thanks so much for being here. Where can people find you?
Well, Dave, you can find me at Ben Roethig on your social media of choice. On Tuesdays, you can find me on this little show called Mac Voices Live with Chuck Joyner. On Thursday and Friday, shall we say, late mornings, early evenings, you can find me on the British Tech Network, on the Big and Mac shows. And of course, Thursday nights, you can find me here on In Touch of iOS.
Thank you so much, Ben. And Jeff Gamet, it's always a pleasure to have you here on the show. Where can people find you?
It's always a treat to get to be here. Oh, wow, Guy, it's crazy how you can do that right over the internet.
Crazy.
Crazy. All right. So when I'm not being force choked by Guy, I'm posting on social media, Jay Gamet on all the different platforms. Most of my stuff right now is going on Mastodon and Instagram. Then for shows, Tuesdays, Chuck Joyner's Mac Voices Live. Here with you on Thursdays, In Touch with iOS. Then on the British Tech Network, as Ben just mentioned, the Big Show on Thursdays, the Mac Show on Fridays. Then Brian Chaffin and I, we do the Context Machine, and Patrice Brendamore and I do Retro Rewatch. And we are working our way through Stargate SG-1 that she has seen many times, and I have not seen at all. So I'm going into these as a first-time viewer, and we're having a lot of fun with that.
I'll check it out. And last but certainly not least, coming to us from the road, Marty Jencius, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Where can the people find you?
Thanks for having me here. Guy, congratulations on your almost 700th show.
Thank you.
Or
Yeah,
almost
you can
1,000.
find me here on Thursday nights, In Touch with iOS. Also on Tuesdays with Mac Voices, and then 3 podcasts, Circular Firing Squad, The Tech Savvy Professor, and also Vision Profiles. And that's with Eric Bolden. We talk about the Vision Pro headset, and it's sort of weekly news, information, apps, and we have developers on to talk about what they're developing. This week, we started a connection with Chuck Joyner of Mac Voices, and we're doing sort of a simul broadcast of a show called, it'll come out once a month or around that, called Vision Pro Focus. And it's more of, I call it a magazine show, where Eric and Chuck and myself talk about some aspect of the Vision Pro. And this episode that just came out was about the social aspect of it and how people can use it for social connecting. So we're having some fun with that, and just appreciate being here on the show.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, I watched that first episode. You guys did great. That's amazing. You're gonna get some. It's gonna get some nice viewers and listeners for that too. So, congrats on that.
Thanks.
And thank you for listening and watching and being part of the show. We would really appreciate it. It's always a blast being here, and we'll be back again next week. But until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk again soon.